So good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of the European Training Foundation, let me welcome you to the first regional webinar for this year, organized by the Skills Lab Network on the topic of labor migration and skills policies and pathways for triple win solutions with perspectives from the Southeastern Mediterranean region and the EU. I am Cristiana. I'm coordinating the activities of a network from ETF side. Warm thank you to all of you for joining us today. Just before starting, few technicalities on Zoom. We have interpretation into Arabic language available that you can activate it through the interpretation button on the below on the screen. I kindly ask to keep the microphone muted during the presentation. You will be most welcome at any time to write your questions to the speakers in the chat box. And we will have dedicated question and answer sessions. So anyone who wishes can take the floor asking questions during this session. One more point, the meeting is being recorded and in the next few days, we will upload the recording as well as the presentations and the materials from today in the ETF open space. You will get an email with all the links. So it is really a pleasure to be with you today. As you may know, the Skills Lab Network was launched in 2021 with the objective to bring together around the common platform researchers and analysts in the field of skills demand, interested in discussing and exchanging on skills anticipation and how skills for the future are changing. The network is rapidly growing. We now are more than 450 from ETF partner countries, EU member states, international organizations, and beyond. So the network is really taking shape as a global forum for discussion on skills demand issues. Under the network, the typical activities that we regularly organize are thematic webinars, peer visits, live events, peer learnings, and knowledge sharing via a number of channels like newsletter, flash news, and a LinkedIn group, which is on which members are really active around the topic of skills demand. As I said, the webinar today is the first of a series of regional events within the Skills Lab. And this time we are focusing on Southern and Eastern Mediterranean region. Next regional webinars will have a focus on Central Asia, Western Balkans and Turkey, and Eastern Partnership countries. I wish to thank our regional facilitator, Najib Amouti, and all the regional team who is supporting him with the work of a network in the region. Before starting, let me briefly guide you through the agenda for today. The topic is labor migration and skills policies related to labor migration. We will look at pathways for triple win solutions, looking at policies and practices in the region that can create triple win solutions for migrants, for origin countries, and for destination countries as well. In the first session, a speaker from ETF will bring us through what are the skills dimensions of migration, what are the key policy developments and activities in EU, and the ETF work in this area. We will then move to country presentations, focusing on how to strengthen pathways from education to work, addressing the link between mobility and vocational training systems, as well as policies and practices in skills identification, provision, and recognition. Then we will look at the gender perspective, analyzed from a recent ETF study on migrant women as learners. So you will see that we are trying to bring in together diverse perspectives, aiming at fostering dialogue and navigate the complexities of labor migration and skills in the region. So I don't want to, without further ado, I'm now pleased to pass the floor to our regional facilitator, Najib Amouti, who will introduce and facilitate the first session. Najib, over to you.
Thank you very much, Cristiana. And from my side, I would like to welcome all the participants. We are glad to have you in this first regional webinar. Our first guest is Maria Vittoria. She's a human capital development expert at European Training Foundation, and she has done a lot of work on labor and migration. So without waiting, I would like to pass the floor to Maria Victoria and wish her good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Najib. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to be in this first meeting on labor migration under the Skills Lab. I welcome all new colleagues and old friends and colleagues. I prepared the presentation with the aim to provide some key elements of reflection. Of course, the topic is very broad, so we will need more occasions, and we will have more occasions. But let's start with some key points that may help us set a perimeter for our reflections and our future work. Thank you. My name is Maria Victoria. For those who don't know me, I'm the migration focal point in ETF. But we have a migration team, which is quite consistent. So it's a collective work, what I'm presenting. Thank you for going to the next slide. Okay, so key migration issues in South, East, and South and East Mediterranean countries. This is what SEMED stands for. It might be obvious, maybe for some of you, but what we have to recall are two main things: that labor migration is a prominent feature in this area. And from the skills dimension, we see increasing skills levels among migrants and increasing feminization. Is this going to lead to brain drain? This is a question. Also, what we observe is the changing migration profile of different countries like Tunisia, like Morocco, in the sense that we see now that these countries are characterized in parallel by emigration flows, but also immigration flows and also transit flows. So they are not anymore traditional net emigration countries as they used to be some decades ago. This demands articulated policy responses. Then the skills dimension. More and more skills of migrants, their talents are high in the agenda. So whereas remittances remain a very important element for the countries of destination and countries of origin, more and more there is awareness that what the migrants bring are their skills, their knowledge, and this needs to be valued better. How? In this, what is called the triple win. What is the triple win? It means that as ETF, we promote and we are for gains that should not benefit only the country of destination, but also the countries of origin and the migrant themselves. Second important element are the important flows of refugees, further to wars, climatic change. And we see this in Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Libya, Egypt, and others. They come from Sudan, they come from Sub-Saharan Africa, Asia. And we should take in mind that refugees also have skills, which is not normally the case in the narrative, in the discourse at political level. Next slide, please. Okay, but before going more on what activities are being done by ETF, by the European Commission around the skills dimension of migration in this area, where migration is very important, I dedicated one slide. Sorry, it's very synthetic, but what do we mean by skills dimension of migration? Basically, it's a relation between three poles, three conceptual poles. On one side, the skills provision, what the education and training system offer to your citizen in your countries. Second pole of attention is the access to the national labor market. What is the employment, the activity, attitude of people, and the relation with labor migration. how these three work. So here we have issues of skills levels, issues of gender, issues of unemployment, underemployment, access to information. So if we want to summarize, but really summarize, and sorry for this, we can identify maybe four main, let's say, patterns or way to understand the skills dimension of migration. One very traditional is about brain drain. What this means? It means that migration is seen as detrimental to a country development. So educated people leave, and this is bad for the countries of origin. In this understanding, we can say, according to the theory of games, that this is a win-lose scenario. Then another interpretation, more optimistic, more win-win, is about brain gain. What this means? It means that the propension to migration, which does not mean migrating for good, but this propension to migration leads many people to learn, to get skills, with the idea to leave, but many of them will not leave. So this incentive to learning is a gain for the country of origin as well, because more qualified people will remain in the country and will help the development of the country of origin. Then we have brain circulation. Again, this is a win-win, so a more positive look at migration. And this is about considering flows of people with globalization, people moving around, bringing ideas from one country to the other, bringing idea back to their country of origin. So everyone is gaining in this understanding. But also there is again, a win-lose understanding of labor migration and skills around that, that is brain waste. As we know, it's very common that migrant skills are underutilized, not utilized. There are also cases where migrants get de-skilled by working abroad because the job they get, the sectors they work in are not very qualified. And they include, for instance, jobs in agriculture, caregiving, or transport, construction. So under this understanding, migration is really a lose for the people. I stop here. I'm sorry, it's a very short conceptual framework, but we can go back. Next slide, please. Now I move to another topic that is, as Christiana was saying in the beginning, what are the EU policies? As you know, ETF is an EU agency, and the EU recently has been very active on policy development around labor migration, mainly because, sorry, there is something happening here. Mainly because European population is aging. There are shortages of skilled workers at all skills levels, and also shortages of people. So there are four main recent policies, and you will find the link to these policies at the end of my presentation that will be shared later. So a new pact on migration and asylum, which was adopted last year, which has among its pillars one dedicated to talents. And this is something new, a policy on talents. It was first presented in 2020. So it took 4 years to be discussed and accepted by the member states, but now is the new pact. Then in 2022, there was a communication on attracting skills and talents. November 23 was followed by a package on skills and talent mobility. And here the new talent pool was presented, a new communication on recognition of third country nationals' qualification has been adopted, and also a new initiative called Europe on the Move. More recently, just a few weeks ago, the Union of Skills, it's a new overarching policy, is also pointing to the need for Europe to attract researchers and to have more graduates in Europe coming from abroad. This policy framework is being supported by mechanisms and tools, okay, to make it happen. Very relevant to the region of our webinar today are the talent partnership. There is a slide dedicated to this, so I will not enter into the detail right now. Also, the talent pool as a mechanism to attract individual skilled people from all over the world to the European Union. There is a revision of the single permit directive that allows to combine work and staying and residence permit, and also safeguard from labor exploitation, long-term resident directive, and then other tools as well related to skills. All this you find in the last slide with the links, okay? Next slide, please. Najib, you are having a look at the clock, right? You tell me when it's 2 minutes before the end. Thank you, because I'm
Yes,
so
yes.
much.
Don't worry, Mari. You still have time.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
So about what's happening in the South and East Mediterranean region. It's a main area of attention from the EU regarding migration. Here I resumed 4 main EU-funded initiatives that are quite important. The first one are the so-called strategic partnership agreements. These are overarching medium long-term agreements, also bringing normally funds, investment with that. The first one was signed with Tunisia, then it was followed by Egypt, Jordan, next one, Morocco. And so far in the 3 that have been signed, migration had a prominent role. Then we have the talent partnership. They have been launched so far with Egypt, Morocco, and Tunisia. They are meant as a win-win labor migration management mechanisms. There is a dedicated slide in 1 minute. But there are also so-called pilot projects. So there is a facility called Migration Partnership Facility. And you will also here, you will find the link at the end. And here there are funds for pilot projects between partner countries and member states to pilot new ways of upskilling, reskilling migrants, returning migrants, potential migrants, migrants in circular schemes. Have a look at that. You will find that there is so much going on and so very good new initiatives being experimented. The fourth quite important big initiative funded by the EU is the TAM Plus program towards an holistic approach to migration and mobility. And this is covering Egypt, Morocco, and Tunisia. It's about evidence collection, it's about support to policy making, but also support to legal migration pathways. And this is going on now for a few years. Parallel to what the EU is funding, there are also bilateral funding and initiatives that are mainly, on one side, promoted, set up by governments. So the bilateral institutional agreements for labor migration schemes that are signed between your government and governments in the northern part of the Mediterranean. But also, as you may have heard or seen, more and more private companies are coming to the northern shores of the Mediterranean to recruit skilled people directly. So there are multinationals they started, but now they are followed by big companies. And I could see in Tunis also medium-sized companies, because the needs in Europe are huge. So private companies are getting organized and they come and recruit directly in your own countries. Next slide, please. So a little zoom on talent partnership. So the talent partnership is this new overarching mechanism that is meant to be tailor-made to address labor market and skill needs at the same time in the member state and in the partner countries, so that there is a mutual benefit. Second, important aspect is that talent partnership combine direct support for these mobility schemes for work and for training, and this includes vocational training. The last aspect is about targeting all skills levels in various economic sectors. Here, every country, I mean Morocco, I mean Tunisia, I mean Egypt, they have identified common needs together with selected member states that are interested to work with these countries around a number of sectors and a number of professions. And these documents are called matrices, okay? In the matrices, there are jobs that have been agreed by Morocco and 6 member states, Tunisia and 4 member states, Egypt and 2 member states. We want to work together to upskill, reskill people for these professions because we need them for our country here in Northern Africa, but also in the member states. Next slide, please. Now it's about ETF. I thought it was interesting for you to know how ETF is working around labor migration, in the South and East Mediterranean. So we work around 4 main strands. The first one is support to vision and policy making in order to help mainstreaming the needs of labor migration across policies. We made some analysis on selected countries, and we called these analyses skills and migration country fishes. We have developed them for Morocco, Tunisia, Lebanon, and Jordan. Just as example, and we analyzed the policy frameworks of these 4 countries in education and training to see how far they are addressing the needs of labor migration. And we found out that there is work to be done. So we are available to help policymakers in order that they capture the needs of labor migration when designing education and training policies. Because if there is no vision, normally there will be less action. The second area where we are working and where we can help is also in the identification of skills needs. The skills labs is one example. So to improve the observatory function on sectors, jobs, and skills in demands. Under each strand, I put examples of our work, and all this you will find in our web page dedicated to skills and migration. So the observatory function, but then also the provision. Once you identify which are the skills needed, there is a need maybe to upskill or reskill potential migrants, immigrants, returnees. So it's a matter of improving the quality and the relevance of the provision of education and training.
Vittoria, time flies.
Okay.
We would like to keep some minutes for questions and answers.
Certo.
Okay, you can conclude if you want.
That was my last point, is about supporting recognition of qualification and skills validation systems. Just to show where are the links, next slide, please. This is how we cooperate with the EC, but you will read it by yourself. Next one, please. Okay, here are the key EU policies on labor migration. You can click them, have a look. Next one, please. And last, here is ETF work, again, with links. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Maria Vittoria. Indeed, it's a very interesting topic, and it seems that there is a lot of movement around labor migration and a lot of dynamic in the South Mediterranean region. I have a question from Ivan Martin. He's saying, how will the new pact for the Mediterranean being launched by the new European Commission affect these different skills and migration initiatives in the Southern and Eastern Mediterranean?
Thank you, Ivan. Good afternoon. I hope you're well. There is a new DG in the new commission that is operational now for a couple of months. It is called DG MENA. So it's a new director general, like a new ministry, let's say, in the language of the commission, that is being constituted, and it will have 3 sub-regions. One is Maghreb, one is Mashrek, and one is the Gulf. So 6 countries from the Gulf. The first objective of this new DG is the new Pact for the Mediterranean, which will be presented in September. As part of the new pact, labor migration will have a prominent role, and that is we will contribute to that, to the new pact, but also other actors. So so far, even and all, we don't have a clear, let's say, apart from what I shared already, it's the new pact that will give more visibility how this new commission will see labor migration. We need to wait.
We don't have other questions, so if anyone wishes to speak, you can raise your hand or take the mic. But we still have only 2 minutes left, so we might also...
Sorry, maybe
yes?
I can jump on this a little bit. Good
Yes,
afternoon. I am from DG Home. I am a Blue Book trainee in the unit on legal pathways and integration. So maybe just to complement a bit on what Maria Vittoria was saying, is that in the of course we don't know yet how the actions that will be enshrined in the Pact of the Mediterranean, but the Union of Skills that was previously mentioned by Maria Vittoria clearly mentions the Pact on the Mediterranean in relation to talent partnerships and youth talent pool, and it says that it will provide opportunities in this regard, and also in particular for the development of train to hire programs. So for sure this dimension will be included in the Pact for the Mediterranean if we look at what is already stated in the Union of Skills. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Federica, for this addition. Without waiting, thank you very much, Maria Vittoria. We might be expecting you also maybe at the end if there are other questions from colleagues. But I will pass on the floor directly to my colleague in the network, Hedia Mhiri. She's part of the South Eastern Mediterranean team.
Thank you.
Yes, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It is really a pleasure to be with you. I will introduce my colleagues, who is Surur Ramzi. She is an academic and researcher specializing in economic and quantitative methods. She holds a PhD in management with a focus on quantitative methodology, and is currently an associate professor at High Institute of Management, where I also teach. Her research interests encompass primary, secondary, and tertiary education, sustainable development, and socioeconomic environment. So she will present. Surur, you are with us? The floor is yours. Surur, are you with us? Is it okay? So you can share your presentation, please. Surur, she was with us.
Yes, and I see her. She's connected. Maybe there are problems.
Yeah,
okay, that's fine.
Yeah. So you can. Yes, it is okay. So you can begin. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go on.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar on a topic that is of great importance to many regions: migration and vocational training systems, strengthening education to work pathways. Estimate overview. The presentation will be structured as follows. We begin with an introduction, followed by an exploration of migration statistics across countries of the CMED region. After that, we will discuss the crucial role that vocational training plays in facilitating the integration of migrants into the labor market. Next, we will outline the challenges faced by migrants that significantly impede their employability. Thereafter, we present concrete examples of vocational training systems in host countries that have successfully overcome this obstacle, thereby providing migrants with opportunities to integrate into the labor market. Before concluding, we'll mention the brain drain phenomenon in Tunisia, and finally, conclusion. According to the International Organization of Migration 2019, migration is the movement of persons away from their place of usual residence, either across an international border or within a state. Several factors are at the root of the migration phenomenon: economic, social, political, and environmental factors. These factors push people to leave their countries of origin in search of stability, of security, stability, and better economic opportunities. This phenomenon affects both low-skilled workers and highly skilled professionals, leading to brain drain that deprives origin countries of a human resource and workforce necessary to their development and economic growth. Migration is then considered as a major development issue. According to the World Bank 2023, approximately 184 million people, or 2.5% of the world's population, live outside their countries of nationality. Nearly half of them are in low and middle income countries. Based on this graphic, we'll present the net migration rate for select years 2000 and 2023 across countries of the CMED region. As we know, the net migration rate is the difference between the number of immigrants and the number of immigrants per 1,000 inhabitants in a country. Statistics extracted from International Organization of Migration show that in Tunisia there is negative migratory balance. This result can be linked to several factors like political instability during that period and the increase in inflation and food prices, which are likely to push some Tunisians to leave their countries. Morocco, although it has recorded a slight improvement that can attribute to improvements in local economic conditions, partly driven by significant increase in remittances from Moroccans residing abroad, this migration rate still remains negative. For Jordan, its rate shifted from minus 4.8 to minus 1.5 in 2023, which shows an improvement suggesting a reduction in departures or an increase in arrivals, potentially due to improved economic conditions or more attractive migration policies. In contrast, Lebanon's rate goes from a near neutral rate in 2000 to a sharply negative rate in 2023, minus 5.9, reflecting an intensification of immigration likely due to the economic crisis that occurred since 2019, followed by political instability and social tension affecting the countries. However, the opposite trend was observed in Egypt. This positive increase indicates that Egypt has become more for an immigration country than an immigration country during that period. This can be attributed to a relative improvement in economic and political conditions compared to neighbor countries like Libya and Sudan. Faced with these migratory dynamics, a key question arises: how can migrants integrate sustainably into the professional worlds? This is where vocational training systems come into play. First, we will define a vocational training system as a structured framework of skill development program and education aimed to prepare participants for specific trades, occupations, or profession. Vocational training are adapted to support social and economic integration of migrants by providing qualification and job-relevant skills, offering language and intercultural training, facilitating recognition of prior learning and experience, and creating pathways to stable employment. This could be attained with skill acquisition aligned with labor market needs. Vocational education and training programs are designed to equip individuals with practical skills adapted to current industry demands. This alignment enhances employability by ensuring that trainees possess competences and skills searched by companies. Also, by certification and the recognition of skills play an important role in helping migrants access stable employment by formally validating their abilities, experiences, and competences. So here we can take the example of Germany Recognition Act that allows migrants to get their foreign qualification officially recognized using a structured system. Vocational training system in host countries also are able to incorporate work-based learning opportunities such as internship to facilitate migrants' integration into the labor market. These programs intended to migrants and they combine both practical on-the-job training and theoretical instruction, enabling migrants to acquire industry-specific skills, understand workplace culture, and construct professional networks. We can take here the example of Germany, which adopts dual vocational training systems offered to participants, especially migrants, in order to split their time between classroom instruction and on-the-job training. It's important here to indicate that well-structured training aligned with market demand can not only improve the employability of migrants, but also contribute to economic growth and social cohesion in both origin and host countries. In addition to the vocational training systems implemented in host countries, it's essential to identify the specific obstacles that migrants face when assessing the labor market. We note here recognition of qualification and skills, administrative and linguistic barrier, also discrimination and prejudice. All of these obstacles have contributed to a significant gap in employment rates, both between immigrant and non-immigrant youth, and between the descendants of immigrants and those of non-immigrants, as illustrated in this graph showing the case of France. It's then important to present some concrete examples of vocational training systems that have succeeded in overcoming this obstacle by facilitating better integration of migrants in destination countries, which depends largely on their successful entry into the labor market. We have classified the programs based on two approaches: work-study training and dual apprenticeship, which combine theoretical training in an institution with practical experience in a company. And the second one is a public and private partnership for migrants' employment. Starting with, yes.
Suru, please be more rapidly. You will attach the link.
Okay, starting with the first approach. So here we present the vocational training program for Syrian refugees in Jordan. As we know that Jordan hosts a large number of Syrian refugees, many of whom are seeking skills to improve their employability. The Jordanian Red Crescent, in collaboration with international organizations, has established vocational training programs, including sewing, baking, soap making, to help refugees to develop practical skills. The second one, we present a circular migration program between Spain and Morocco. Since the year 2000, Spain has implemented a circular migration programs in collaboration with Morocco. This initiative allows Moroccan workers, particularly women, to come to Spain for seasonal jobs, mainly in the agriculture sector, such as strawberry harvesting in Andalusia. These programs include specific training that prepare participants for the required task, combining theoretical instruction with practical field experience. We note also the third program is the integration training program in Estonia, which is a continuation of activities initiated by Joint International Organization of Migration and Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe project. This for Estonian and foreign women in 1998. Its aim is to contribute to the integration of foreign women into multicultural and pluralistic society by strengthening the socio-economic development of socially vulnerable women. We note also the I Welcome program, which is an European initiative coordinated by the French association Piste Solidaire. It offers low-skilled migrant women the opportunity to acquire in-demand skills that enhance their employability and access to the labor market. WIVS France is an association and an inclusive training organization guided by social justice. Its main objective is to ensure a fairer and more efficient French integration systems. Among the training provided within WIVS France, so we know the pre-training program, Objectif Emploi, des Étoiles et des Femmes program that helps women who are passionate about cooking and who are far from employment to find a job in the restaurant. For the second approach, so we note in this context, we know the Experience Sans Frontières program is a French initiative designed to assist migrants in converting their professional experience gained abroad into recognized qualification within France.
Surur,
We
please
know
go to the
last one.
slide.
Okay, to the last one. The conclusion. So, conclusion. The integration of refugees and migrants is a complex process that must benefit all stakeholders, host and origin countries, as well as the refugees and migrant population. Achieving this goal requires specific measures based on effective and relevant vocational training system, so an effective search for matching their skills with employment opportunities, access to healthcare and education. It's therefore essential to consider integration as a long-term investment in human capital. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Surur.
Thank you.
We have some questions. The one is from Evan Martin. In fact, it isn't precisely designed to you, but it is to the whole community. How will the new pact for the Mediterranean being launched by the new European Commission affect these different skills and migration initiative in the southern and eastern Mediterranean? So anyone from the ATF can answer this question. Or you, Surur, if you have an answer, because these depends on the ATF strategy and projects. That's why I said if one of the ATF member can answer to this question, how?
Yeah, Hedia, thank you. Well, the new pact for the Mediterranean is a priority of the new Commission. It does not exist yet, okay? It's under the making. So the Commission has launched a consultation via the Directorate General for the Mediterranean and the Middle East, Directorate General called MENA. And one of the priority of this Directorate General is to produce a new vision, a new strategy for the South Mediterranean, for the relations with the South Mediterranean and the Gulf. And this new pact will be presented in September. So there we will see what will be the priorities. But for sure, labor migration will remain as a priority.
Okay, thank you. The other question is from Mahmoud Boubakir. We only see work done with only few countries in the Mediterranean and North Africa. Surur, could you please answer? Can you please answer?
This question for me, I think.
Question: we only see work done with only few countries in the Mediterranean and North Africa. So this is, in fact, the goal of your presentation, isn't it?
Only few countries in the Mediterranean and North Africa.
Yeah.
Let me see what done. Only
sorry to interrupt. I think this question was addressed to the previous speaker. Yeah, exactly. It was
for that
in the chat. Yeah.
Yes.
I think it was for following
Maria,
Maria Victoria's presentation. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I can take this one. Let's say in my presentation, I tried to capture issues that were relevant to the region. And then I also made reference to some EU-funded initiative and some ETF work that address some specific countries. And I picked them out of this region because this is a regional webinar with a regional focus. So for sure, there is a lot going on also in other countries like Algeria or Libya soon we hope also Syria. But what I made reference is ETF work so far and EU-funded initiatives so far. I hope I answered the question.
Okay, I think the last question is from Dr. Adel Abdu, who said, what is the possibility for the individuals to cooperate with the ETF in that regard? So you are now cooperating with the ETF, and you can just enroll yourself in the different webinars and also in the publication and to have the publication of the ETF. I don't know if it is your aim or if you mean other thing or other.
Maybe I can compliment Hedia.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So Dr. Ahmed, my colleague Christiana will announce it at the end of this meeting. We are setting up a working group on labor migration under the Skills Lab. So you may have received an invitation to join this community. So please, if you are interested, all those who are interested in the topic, please join the migration community. And there, we will present you quite a number of initiatives that will start this year.
Thank you. I don't know if someone needs to ask directly a question to Surur or to the other member of the community. No one. Okay. Thank you again, Surur. Okay.
Thank you.
And now, Najib, you have the floor. Thank you. Maybe Najib or no, Hania.
Yes.
Nader, sorry.
Nader, Salama from Egypt
Nader.
and
Nader. Yeah.
member of the team.
Yeah, okay. Nader, you have. Okay, thank you.
Please activate your mic. Nader, your mic is off.
Yes. Hello. Thanks, Najib, and thanks, Sadia. And thanks for everyone who has joined us today. And we are very pleasure to having you in this very interesting webinar, and specifically for this interesting session about CEMED-led approaches. And also we are going to cover skills dimension, skills recognition and provision and identification also. And before passing the floor to my colleague, our esteemed speaker here today for this session, specifically for this session, which is Ms. Hania Shahid from Lebanon, I would like to present myself. I am Nader Salama. I am the regional team member, and I will be moderating this session for you. And I would like to remind you about two main aspects, two main important aspects. Just feel free to post your questions and comments and queries in the chat box. And please, we would like to invite you to join us on linked group and open space. Thank you, and I'm going to pass floor for my colleague Hania. Hania, the floor is yours. Thank you. Hania?
Thank you.
Are you hearing me?
Thank you. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon all. So I'll be doing a short presentation today on let's say an overview from the skills and migration in Lebanon. I think partly was covered by my colleague, but this is just an overview of what we have done so far. Are you able to see it now?
Yes, yes, we see very well.
Okay.
Yes, it's clear. Go ahead, please.
Just trying to, okay, sorry. Okay, so let's say what Lebanon is known is really known for its diversity in the people, in the climate, in politics, in everything. So what we've been really witnessing is let's say we're very hospitable, so we're always welcoming immigrants, and we really have a rise in the foreign population. specifically from Iraq, from Palestine, from also Syria, given the war and the uprisings in Syria. But in terms of the Lebanese immigration, we really had two waves. So the first wave was before the civil war, so before the 1970s, where it was really in search for better job opportunities abroad, but it was let's say the low-skilled and the unskilled laborers that were immigrating. But the era after the war, it was really triggered by the economic conditions, but also the insecurity and the political insecurity in the country, with the different waves of violence that we've been witnessing, which really resulted in a sharp brain drain in the country. So what really, in terms of, because we always like to present the positive and the negative aspects. So on the positive aspect, we've had increased remittances, where they really were the backbone of our economy. But also it did have some shortcomings in terms of having the more skilled people leaving for better opportunities abroad. And this brain drain which really impacted the labor market in terms of the skills mismatch. And the other thing is that we have the skills mismatch with the prevalence of low-skilled jobs that were really uptaken by the refugees, by the Syrian refugees, and also we have the foreign domestic workers as well. Now, to give you just a brief, what we've been really witnessing is just wave after wave of challenging context in terms of the economic and the social impacting the country, whether it was the start of the war in Syria and the crisis where we had an open border policy, influx of refugees, onto the COVID-19, which not only, of course, impacted Lebanon, but impacted also different countries. But we have the port explosion, where it impacted directly also the micro, small, and medium enterprises and the businesses. And then came the big, let's say the economic depression, what we like to call it, because the trigger of the financial and the economic crisis, it caused a sharp devaluation of the Lebanese pound, and also a depression of the wages and high unemployment. With the escalations, let's say violent escalations in the south, and then the outbreak of the war, this caused also internal displacement of the people, fleeing to more secure countries, and businesses having to hold their activities due to the war, a further slowdown of the economy. So it's always the different things than the context that keeps on being challenged for the country. In terms of the labor market, we've had an increase in unemployment, and specifically among the youth, where the rate is significantly high, 50% for the youth and 33% for the women. The suspension of economic activities and the businesses meant that further people will be out of jobs. And this is the case for also the high unemployment. But also the war caused disruption in the trade routes, in also the supply chains, which further pose a challenge on the businesses to remain active under such conditions. Now, in terms of the skills, and specifically if we're talking about policy initiatives, there has been some advancement in that aspect. The major milestone being the National Strategic Framework for Technical and Vocational Education and Training, which was developed by the different also organizations, along with the Ministries of Education, Higher Education, and others. This is a real milestone that was with the aim of promoting employability of the active population in Lebanon. addressing skills of migrants, specifically in trying to also integrate life skills, not just technical skills. And there were different initiatives that were taken by international organizations in that aspect. There was also the National Qualifications Framework, which really has usually 8 levels, but the work was done, on all 8 levels, but 6 levels have been adopted, and there was a decision for official adoption. So there's a bit of recognition in the different forms of learning. And then there is also the process of updating this national strategic framework. It's witnessing some delays, but at least it's on track in terms of that. Okay. The only, let's say, downside of that is that most of the work has been driven by international organizations and international donors. So whether it's UNICEF that was working on competency-based approaches, whether it's, for example, work-based learning, which was actually a joint venture between the Director General of the Vocational Education and Training and the Ministry of Industry to try to really work on internship and placement opportunities for the youth. Some training on digital skills, as well as trying to have a platform for connecting job seekers with companies. But again, when it's always initiated by international organizations, it remains vulnerable to cycles of financing and also the context. So it's sustainability-wise, it's always a risk. And because of the vulnerability in terms of very weak governance, so anything that was impacting the country would draw it back to point zero, not being able to move or pick up from where they left afterwards. So this is the thing. In terms of migrants, some initiatives have been taken at the policy level, for example, trying to regulate the employment, specifically the employment for labor in terms, for example, of the Syrian refugees, where there are 3 sectors that they're allowed to work in, construction, agriculture, and environment, but they are very vague in terms of what could be done there. And the Palestinian, in terms of the Palestinian refugees, this was actually a very challenging one. Now, the advancement is that they reduced the number of professions that they were, let's say, banned from. So it gave them more opportunities to work. And then recently there was a decree in terms of allowing them to work in trade union represented sectors. So this is a bit of also the recognition of the importance also of refugees in integrating in the labor market with their skills as well. But again, it's always when you're witnessing rounds of challenges, there's always this shift from a development perspective into a survival or a humanitarian perspective, which make things a bit difficult, and they shift of the priorities, and all policies, advancements, and mechanisms, they get put on hold. At the same time, there's an increase in the informality of the work in the sectors. And this is also manifested in terms of inadequate working conditions, lack of any social protection for Lebanese as well as non-Lebanese laborers. So this really puts a kind of a drawback for advancing or for growing and improving skills of people when the informal sector is the one that is prevailing in the country. However, there are some opportunities that are really worth looking at, worth analyzing and taking into consideration because they could really advance and catalyze. One of them is that we have a new government with very qualified ministers that really are fit for their job. So each one can really develop the policies that are relevant to their specialty. And this would catalyze and speed up the economic reforms. The second is that there is more export orientation. And this also draws in demand for further skills and also for formalities in employment. Specifically when we're talking, for example, about social responsibility. And this is where the issues of workers' rights and human rights come in. And it is a trigger for further recognition of formal employment. We have somehow, we could say, an optimistic view of the neighboring countries in terms of the security situation, which also eases, let's say, the strain on the public education services for both Lebanese and non-Lebanese. And there is also demand that, you know, with the country recovering slowly from the war, that there will be a reconstruction, a recovery, which would have really an economic expansion and resuming of economic activities. So these are all opportunities that the country can take benefit of in order to advance policies and frameworks on migration and skills. So what we really have to look for is, first of all, we need data, and we need updated data because the context keeps changing, and you need a baseline. And this is where the importance of labor market information systems has to be. It's not anymore an option, it's a priority. The second is that we need to work on formalization of employment. So we really need to have active labor market strategies that says, okay, this is the demand for the skills, this is where we are right now, and this is where we need to be. And this requires strong governance, and this requires also bridging the gaps and the mandates between, for example, we have the Ministry of Education, Higher Education, but also the Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Social Affairs, Ministry of Economy, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because we're not looking just at the, let's say, the refugees and immigrants, but also we're looking at the Lebanese as well. And we also need to take into consideration the technology advancement and the integration, and to see how this also can further enhance the, let's say, the fusion between the skills and the advancement, because we need further upskilling of that. So this is to keep up with the, let's say, the latest advancements and also the growth of the different countries and the movements, especially in the Southeast Mediterranean countries. So I stop here and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Hania. It was a very interesting presentation. Thank you. And I'm going to address some questions which we have in the chat box from our esteemed guests. First one, we have a question from Mr. Hassan Emiligi. And first of all, I would like to welcome Mr. Hassan with us. Your contribution, sir, is very invaluable for us. And we are thank you for all of your contribution with us. And Mr. Hassan asking about, do we have a statistic or database or any kind of semi-observatory system? And I think all of the statistic and database, you can find all of these database and statistics through ETF website. And I thank Maria Vittoria. I think she has commented on these questions, and she posted a link for ETF work on labor migration, which are available at Skills and Migration ETF. And if Maria Vittoria have any comments, please. Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for this very important question and for pointing out to the need of data, because otherwise our recommendations are not enough evidence-based. There is no, to our knowledge, there is no so far a South Mediterranean observatory on migration. However, first, good news, if you look at the country fishes on skills and migration The one on Lebanon, Hania just presented. Thank you, Hania. But if you look at the statistical appendix of the country fish for Lebanon, which is the same as for the country fish for Jordan, for Tunisia, for Morocco, all those data that you find in the statistical appendix are available for many countries of the world. So look at the sources and see if there is something of your interest. This is one good news. Second good news, as ETF, we launched our new activity to set up a migration dashboard. What is this? This is a collection of data about skills and migration for all ETF partner countries. So we just started, okay? So the data collection will start in a couple of months and then it will be processed. So if everything goes fine, by the end of the year, we will be able to publish on our website the migration dashboard. And together with the data, we will also put forward some interpretation of the data. So stay with us. It's going to be in a few months. The third possibility is the African Migration Observatory. I don't know if you are aware, but further to the signature of the Global Migration Compact, an African Migration Observatory has been set up in Rabat, in Morocco, okay? This observatory will cover different sub-regions in Africa. So no Middle East, okay? It goes up to Egypt and down to South Africa. But let's say for Northern Africa, this observatory that you can find online on internet, you can contact them. By the way, the president now is of Egyptian origin. So that's enough, but they started their activities very recently. I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria Vittoria. It is very interesting and very promising start. Go ahead, and we can't wait to the start.
Nader, sorry, there is an issue with your mic.
Yes. Is it better now?
Yes.
Thank you, Maria Vittoria. Thank you for the start, and we can't wait for the start. Hello. And we have another question here from Mr. Najib. The question from my colleague, Mr. Najib, are there any measures which aim at recognizing prior learning of migrants? Are any measures?
In Lebanon, not yet.
Yes, in Lebanon. Yeah.
So we are able to conduct these measures soon, and also we aim for all the region conduct these measures. It's very important for the region, for the benefit for the region, and for the country of origins, and also for country of hosts.
I mean, we just to tell you that when we did this skills and migration country fish, it was in 2021, 2022. But then so much happened afterwards that you would want to see captured through data, yet things are still kind of like almost the same. So this is the bit of the contradiction that you need further data to validate what's really going on and to dig deeper into that. Because it's kind of still the same, but yet so much has changed as well. Sure. So this is what needs to be reflected, and this is why an observatory is needed all the time to reflect on that data.
Yes. Thank you for this clarification, and I think we have no questions.
Maybe if I can add on validation.
Yes, please, Maria. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, this issue, Najib, thanks for raising this point, is very important. There is more and more awareness in Europe, in the partner countries, on the need to validate prior learning or informal learning. So one thing are the qualifications and the need to recognize the qualifications. But something else is the need to recognize also the skills that maybe are not supported by diplomas, are not supported by certificates, but still are knowledge, skills, attitudes that the migrants bring with themselves. So in Europe, we have now formulated this approach, which is called skills first approach. Private companies are very much pushing for that, because they say in the end, what matters for us is what the people know, not only what is in the diplomas. Of course, for some professions, the diplomas are necessary. I mean, if you need to be a doctor in a hospital, presumably you must have your diploma as a doctor, or an architect. But for many professions, private companies are pushing for making this validation of prior learning easier. So there are several measures in Europe that are being studied, piloted with immigrants in Europe in order to speed up this procedure of recognizing the skills. Something has also been done in your countries, with returning migrants or with immigrants. So if you look again at the country fishes, you will find that there is a section for each country where we put good practices. Among the good practices, there are also some about validation. Another source can be what I mentioned before, the pilot projects. If you go to the pilot project web page, you will find some projects are also about validation. But indeed, more needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria Vittoria, for this. And I think we have no questions in the chat box from our esteemed guests. But I have couple of questions for Hania, if you please. The first one: how could labor migration could benefit the community, whether in the country of the origin or country of host countries? How labor migration and skills could benefit both economies?
I could give you an example for when at the start of the economic crisis in Lebanon, we witnessed a very big wave of immigration of doctors and nurses, to the extent that we had a shortage of doctors and nurses in the country. And while we had qualified, let's say, or skilled people from the, let's say, Palestinian refugees or Syrian, they could not fill in such gap, because also they were limited by the law as per the professions that they could work in. So this created a huge gap that could have been a win-win situation for both, where the refugees could demonstrate their the skills and the ability to carry on such jobs without being a threat to the local communities, and also easing the tension between both. Because now in the country, there's always this illusion that there's always competition between jobs, and it's not really competition between skilled jobs, it's rather than competition between low-skilled jobs. And because this is due to the growth of the informal sector, where there is no national social security, no social protection, nothing. So it's just really about, I don't want to say exploitation, but it's also not about the good working conditions for people. So this is where we could also say that these are lost opportunities for the country.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for addressing this. And we have another question from Prof. Dr. Adel Abdu. He is asking about 45% of labor market in Egypt is based on informal sector, which come from traditional apprenticeship, which means informal TVET system. How we can recognize their qualification in a right way? That's this is my second question exactly. How we can recognize the skills which important and needed and in high demand for the countries of destination. For example, in Europe, I think from the recent study, it's 77% from the companies in Europe can't employ and get employees which having skilled specific skills in architecture or in construction field. How we can recognize these skills?
I mean, I know, for example, from when they started working on the national qualifications framework, as well as also the trying to update the curricula in terms of the vocational education and training, and having also the quality assurance, which is currently being practiced at the Director General for Vocational and Technical Education. They started working on that in order to standardize the quality assurance mechanisms and the initiatives of the different organizations to really work on competency-based approach and work-based learning as well. So it's like different pathways that could be taken in order to enhance that, because once the people are put into action and they can use their skills, this is when the sector becomes more aware of them. And this is also what Maria Victoria was referring to in terms of the skills, not just what they know, but what they bring with them as well in terms of the knowledge. So this is also a very important point.
Yes, I agree with you. I am totally agree with you. But you are talking about the TVET programs in our countries. So and the TVET programs is formal education systems. But the questions here, how we can recognize in the skills in the informal markets. In Egypt, as Dr. Has mentioned, in 45% of labor migration are based in informal markets. So how we can recognize these skills in the informal markets? Do you have an idea? And the questions for all of you, dear guests, and for Christiana, if you want to add, and Maria Victoria, how we can recognize the skills which base the informal markets?
But this is where I think the active labor market strategies, they need to be in place as well. I mean, you cannot, if this is an informal sector, then there's no recognition. You know, it's not
it's hard to recognize.
It's hard to recognize. It's hard to recognize.
But I think here will come the importance of civil society organization to recognize these kind of skills, specifically in the informal market. So we want to make a partnership and a lot of connection with civil society organization. From my experience and from my opinion, civil society organization have a lot of TVET programs and TVET centers. Also, they have a think tanks. So we want to expand our objectives and our scope of work to include this kind of organization. This is from my point of view. Thank you. If you allow me. Thank you.
Well,
Thank
if I
you,
may,
yes, sure,
if
sure,
I may,
please.
I mean, okay, already we don't speak in technical terms, we speak about validation. When it's not certification. Certification, you speak about recognition. For the skills, being them acquired in the informal sector or in any other way, we talk about validation. So there are techniques, there are tools. In the link that I put now in the chat, you will find ETF studies on how validation of prior learning is conducted in a number of countries. In these studies, you will also find reference to policies and instruments of the European Union that should help validation of prior learning. But I mean, the answer is not a matter of 2 minutes. I mean, these are processes where you need to check on one side, what are the theoretical knowledges, what are the practical knowledges. So there are tests, there are kind of self-declaration. I mean, it's a number of actions. Yes. So if you want to have a look at the web page that I put, qualification and qualification system, you will find a lot there. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria Victoria. Thank you. So I think the question from Dr. Adel Abdu has addressed from Maria Victoria, and his second question, I mean, how we can apply recognition of prior learning in the target. So I think Maria Victoria has addressed this question too. And thank you, Hania, thank you, Maria Victoria, for this interesting presentation. And thank you, Hania, for being with us. And now I am going to pass the floor for my esteemed colleague, Suzanne. Suzanne, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and exactly on time. I would like to present the next session, which is a country qualitative study on Tunisia and Morocco. The study aimed to explore experiences, perceptions, and policy practices, policy recommendations from these two countries. And it will answer to what skills are the most important for women when they move from one country to the other. I'd like to welcome the speaker, our colleague, Dr. Sona Catalanian. She's a human capital development expert at the European Training Foundation. She works in the team dealing with migration and qualification issues. Prior to joining ETF, she worked as a scientific project officer to the European Commission's Knowledge Center on Migration and Demography. And she holds a PhD in economics, and her research interests include labor economics, international migration, integration of migrants, and the linkages between migration and development, along with other such as the youth policies, applied econometrics, and and applied econometrics. Pardon. So I give the floor to you, Sona.
Thank you very much. Thanks to everybody who joined us today and still is with us. I'm sharing now the screen. Please let me know if it's visible to you. And after you confirm, I can go ahead. It's working, Sona. Yeah.
Yes,
thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, so far we have been speaking about migrant population in general, with almost never touching upon aspects like gender or other partitioning of the migrant population. And today, for the next session, I will be speaking about selected findings of a study conducted by ETF recently. Over the last period, we have seen increasing feminization of migration in all parts of the world. Actually, according to recent estimates, women account for almost half of the constantly growing migrant population, and they constitute about 42% of total labor migrants. The relevant literature links feminization of migration to socioeconomic changes in migrant origin countries, but also in the demand in the destination countries, as well as to structural factors and changing social attitudes. However, the question how feminization of migration begins and how it becomes socially institutionalized remain highly unanswered. In the meantime, gender structure of migrant flow has an important impact on the development consequences in the countries of origin in particular. For example, the academic literature states that migrant women compared to their male counterpart are more likely to remit, and their remittances are more resilient. They are more stable against the adverse condition both in countries of origin and destination. And hence, if we are speaking about striving for better life and improving the economic standing, the role of skills emerges as pivotal in this context. Despite the growing importance of female labor migration, the question of skill development among migrant women has been so far not in the center of policymakers' attentions and rarely of academicians.
So to understand how to harness the untapped potential of female migrants, ETF has conducted a study looking at the skills perspective of these migrant women, both before, during, and after migration, trying to understand how the skills are shaping this migration journey and how these skills are utilized during migration and the skill needs upon return. So the main objective of the study of the project in general was to understand how migrant skills and qualification pathways in long life learning perspectives are currently shaped and how they could be better valued through this journey. And also looking at the wealth of information collected in the study, we try to understand how the information gathered can help the policymakers address the needs coming from the voices of migrant women rather than from the policymakers deciding without engaging so much with migrant women. Methodologically, we adopted dual approach. First of all, we have conducted desk study where we try to understand country-specific trends and country-specific profiles to identify which profiles are the most relevant to study. And then we have conducted about 60 in-depth interviews among migrant women. And we also engage with institutions that they are dealing or in charge of migration policies in the countries of origin. So what we had is that we had 58 interviews and the original study includes also Georgia in addition to Morocco and Tunisia. And we looked at the seasonal migrants in Morocco and returning caregivers in Georgia, include also seasonal migrants in Georgia and potential migrants both in Tunisia and in Morocco. Here is some stats about the interviews we have conducted. Just wanted to warn everybody because I am sure there will be the question. We will have many questions how statistically relevant our results. Was not our objective. Our objective was just to bring, in addition to the figures we have, statistical one, the information that are not necessarily visible through quantitative surveys. And rather than statistically significant results, we have a collection of information on individual experiences of migrant women that are providing some nuanced understanding of skill needs and acquisition and utilization through migration process. So it's important to understand few facts and figure about migrant women in the countries and what is the dynamics across these two countries engaged currently in this presentation, that is Morocco and Tunisia. I skip all the results related to Georgia, though they are relevant for some of the questions I saw in the chat. We can come back to that. In both countries, there is a tendency to increase the share of migrants in the migrant women in the migrant flows. And main destinations in Europe remain Spain, France, Italy, Germany, Belgium. However, it is important to mention that so far, when we look at the migrant flow towards European countries, only small percentage of women are coming to European countries through employment channels. The main channel of entry still remain family unification. We also see that not only that employment channel is minor compared to the rest, but also there is a decrease of it, which is substituted by education channel, which perhaps points to the fact that it is difficult to enter the labor market without passing through European education system, which also speaks about the fact that many of them has to restudy to be able to join the labor market in Europe. Quite significant, 28 and 38% of Moroccan and Tunisian women express willingness, at least temporary, to migrate, which is quite high and points to the potential of many of them to use this opportunity if such comes along. we see that both the number of migrant women both in Tunisia and Morocco is increasing over time. And we also see increasing feminization of migrant flow, which are, though increasing, still remain below the global averages. In the study, we try to answer a set of questions that are related to skills and qualification availability. For example, we ask questions about what are the specific skills and qualification the low-skilled migrant women have, and which are the ones that they have acquired during the migration process, to what extent the skills they had defined their migration path and how they use it for migration purposes, and as well as whether what kind of skills and qualifications are still missing to support migration experience, both at the beginning, during migration, and upon return. So I mean, the study is quite extensive, and within this small seminar, we wouldn't have the possibility to look at all possible combination of countries of origin, destination, the countries of origin, the type of migrants that we looked at. The study provides that opportunity. However, if we look at two groups that are the relevant ones for Morocco and Tunisia, we find distinct features for seasonal migrants, for example, compared to those that we identify for potential migrants. Overall, across all the countries, seasonal migrants engaged in agriculture work are relatively less educated. This is the case also for Georgia, that I don't touch upon here. But compared to the rest of the population that have relatively low, they are relatively low skilled. When we looked at the learning opportunities and experience during migration, we saw that there, with almost no exception, there was no pre-departure training. There was some kind of on-job training upon arrival, and they learned a lot about new agriculture technique when working in Spain, for example. They learned a lot in terms of new working environment, about time management, work ethics in a culturally diverse environment. Overall, it was for them a very empowering experience. And when we ask them about the future plans, many of them would like to broaden their agriculture activity in their countries of origin, engage into entrepreneurial activities. Only Georgians, compared to, for example, Moroccans and Tunisians, were willing to move for longer period abroad. So Moroccans and Tunisians were looking for opportunities back in their countries of origin. And overall, when we looked at the training needs, we identified that they would like to get more training on the language on the countries of destination, get some digital skills, financial literacy. Some of them are willing to explore their cooking abilities through catering training. And when looked at the modality of training they would like to have it in reachable, in proximity. They would like to have it short, to the point, mix of online and on-job training, organized by state. They have much trust in the state organized trainings, even though provided by local authorities, and oriented always to income generating, because they are investing much of their time and taken also from the family duties. They would like it necessarily to produce some kind of income and compatible with the family duties. And this is something that women are very much highlighting, that I can do it only if I can also combine with my family duties. The situation is very different and extremely interesting when we are looking at potential migrants in Tunisia and in Morocco. And despite that, the target of our research were low-skilled migrant women, somehow the interviews were conducted with middle income, and high skilled migrant women. And despite this fact, there is a very distinct feature and differences between what we have observed in Morocco and in Tunisia. For example, in Morocco, for potential migrants, the skills and formal qualifications, they have shaped their determination to migrate and facilitate making it a reality. So they all want to make the best of their skill and knowledge in the new destination. And while they consider that skills they have are important, they have little hope that their qualifications will be used in the destination countries. Yet they think, especially those that are going to countries which are using point-based system, that qualification are important to make it to the destination. Instead, I will speed up, Susan. In Tunisia, we have very different picture that potential migrant women are trying to use this opportunity of migration to shape their education and skill acquisition pathway. Many of them are ready to build their CV around these labor mobility possibilities, and they are choosing language acquisition, the language or skills that are popular and are in demand abroad, disregarding to some extent the local labor market needs or opportunities. So many of them are ready to gain a new profession, a new language, if it is the path towards employment abroad. I would like just to say that, of course, if we look through very different skills, these women have very different profiles, also even looking at the language skills. But it is also important to mention that that this wealth of information provided through these interviews allowed us to gain information and answer many important questions that were we put ahead of us when designing this study. And interviews also provided an opportunity to understand differences both across migrant group and across countries. Finally, as we promised at the very beginning, we had also tried to draw some policy recommendation from these interviews. And interestingly, when we did it, it was very clear that these policy recommendations are very much in line with what we come up when we are sitting with policymakers and trying to design measures. What is the last point? What is also was very interesting, that these policy recommendations are exactly similar to those that we were drawing 10, 15 years ago. And it seems that they are the main stable pattern here is that many of them are still unaddressed. So this policy recommendations still remain on paper, and when we are interviewing migrant women, they still are even lacking pre-departure trainings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sona. I welcome everybody to post their questions in the chat. And to start with, actually, I have a couple of questions. Like learning from these women in the interviews, what do you think makes them want to learn a new skill when they move to the new country?
I think very many of them were, especially those who have chosen professions that are not necessarily considered female ones in the country of origin. They thought that with the employment abroad, they can really realize themselves professionally. So many of them, especially, for example, in the logistics or in engineering, were feeling that this is considered a male profession and they are not valued enough in the country of origin. And they were hoping that with learning a foreign language, in this case, it could be German, it could be French, or it could be English, if they were aspiring for Canada, they will be able to realize themselves professionally.
And what kind of training or learning do you think would make a difference in their lives, actually, if we introduce it part of our programs for refugees, for migrations and refugees?
Yeah, I saw that those that were interviewed in Tunisia, they were mostly beneficiaries from GIZ organized programs. And unlike other group of potential migrants, for example, they were really provided with comprehensive training. And this comprehensive training were not only linguistic ones that would bring them to B2 professional almost level, but also they would have a proper coaching building professional vocabulary, not only the vocabulary of German, for example, but also the one that they would need to communicate professionally with their colleagues. And they even had, this was a very interesting part of all these interviews, that they even had a coaching sessions how to prepare for an interview with a German employee, how to behave during this interview, how to answer the question, how to handle difficult question. And I think we all need this kind of skills, and usually we are not taught, not only migrants, in general at school, how to handle interview, but it's even more difficult in a foreign environment. And I think programs that can link your skills to the soft skills, through soft skills, to reach the employer abroad are extremely relevant and necessary.
Thank you very much. We do have a question about the age range of the respondents. And I believe this is very important as well, because most probably as well their responses were related to the realities and it has to do as well with their age. So could actually tell us about this, including Georgia.
Yes, including Georgia. Okay, so first of all, the age was quite, the range of age was quite different. We had 20 something and also around 60-year-old. However, it was clear that the agriculture sector seasonal workers are relatively older compared to the potential migrants that are also at the very beginning of their migration journey. We had seasonal workers that were in their late 50s, early 60s, and they had their 14th year of seasonal migration abroad. So the age difference was, like, let's say that the eldest ones were seasonal migrants, the youngest one Tunisian and Moroccan potential migrants, and in the middle they were the caregivers and the nurses from Georgia to Europe. Yeah.
I hope that answers your questions, Leila. And yeah, already Maria Victoria shared with us the study that was conducted in the 3 countries. Are there any further questions from the audience that you'd like to address?
I think that I could come back to the qualification recognition one, because in case, and the informal sector, because when we were looking at Georgian caregivers, returnee ones, they were not that many, about 10, but in those 10 when drafting the study, I could really find difficult to pull them together, because they were some of them were in formal sector, they were in hospitals, some of them were in houses taking care about elderly, and that all brought to very different experiences abroad and very different skill acquisition. So first of all, that informal employment abroad defined the skills that they utilized and the skills that they gained. Okay, that I will not go into details, but that was really a clear divide there. And then also I would like to mention the skill qualification recognition. We always think that this is a problem when people go abroad and they have their qualification recognized. In this case in Georgians, we had qualification recognition an issue both for Georgian going to Germany to work or in Greece to work, and also we had the issue of Georgians going and studying abroad in Germany, but having their skills back in Georgia not recognized or only partially recognized. So let's say that we see usually one part of the problem, but it is present on both ends of the migration process. What I can say is that the question how we can make sure that skills are recognized, I say that ETF is working hard and systematically and over a very long period to bring the neighboring countries to help the neighboring countries to build their national qualification frameworks, which is a way to bring transparency to the skills and qualification existing in the country, we always forget that Europe is also composed of very different 27 systems of skills and qualification and labor market. And the way European countries found a way to connect all that was the European qualification framework, which serves as a Google Translate between all complex qualification framework national one. And that's why we try to bring these European tools like Europass, EQF, ESCO, all these data sets and tools to bring, to standardize, to harmonize the information, making transparent and available to all employees or education institutions across borders. So I think that the solution is at system level, and this is what we always promote, to look at the system level solution to make sure that everybody can benefit, not only destination countries, but also the origin countries. While revising their qualification framework, they also improve it. So making it more transparent, available, accessible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sona, and thank you for all the authors as well of the research done. I pass on, here I conclude this session, and I pass it on to Christiana for the next one. Thank you.
Many thanks, Suzanne. Many thanks to everybody and to Sona for the latest presentation. We have come to an end of the webinar. Thank you for the inspiring presentations, the questions, and the contribution to the discussion today. A number of aspects which are all very crucial on the topic have emerged. Just as a brief recap from my side, the key takeaways can be summarized under 3 blocks. Triple win solutions to address skills identification, provision, and recognition are really crucial to bring benefits for migrants, origin, and destination countries as well. Skills mobility policies we saw that can really help to bridge the gaps and foster economic resilience while ensuring at the same time that mobility can benefit all stakeholders involved. And the last but not least, which was raised today, data collection, data availability is a priority in order to set effective and evidence-based policies. Now, as Maria Vittoria mentioned, I wanted to take this opportunity, the opportunity of a webinar today, to announce that within the Skills Lab network, we have just launched a subgroup, a sub-community focusing on the skills dimension of migration, with the objective of setting up a platform of researchers for collaboration on the topics of the skills dimension of migration. Under this subgroup, exchanges and discussion will be organized, and also we plan to have a call for papers within the group. If you wish to be part of this Skills Lab Network sub-community, there is a specific link. We will add it in the chat briefly. Maybe I can ask colleagues from Brodolini, Fondazione Brodolini, to put the link in the chat so that in case it is there, but it will be added in the email informing about the materials on this event. I wish to thank again all the speakers, all the participants for contribution to the discussion. A big special thanks to our moderators from the region, so Najib, Edia, Nader, and Suzanne, for keeping the speakers on track. A big thank to the interpreters and to the colleagues in Fondazione Brodolini for the support. As I already mentioned, all the materials will be uploaded in ETF open space. So all the presentations, the recording, and the summary from today's discussion. And you will receive an email once everything will be published. Thank you once again. It was a pleasure being with you today. And we keep in contact, and you will hear from us soon when the materials will be ready. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.